Hi everybody, just wanted to record a video to I guess update you on a few things because I don't know, it just seems like time's going by really fast and I've been having a lot of fun and also just focused on things that I got to do, but I know I'm not very important on YouTube. But I know some people like to watch my stuff, so I'm chewing some gum. But happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, including my father. So I just turned 32 on the 9th last week on Monday. I'm promoting Go, by the way, Jocko Go. Having a little bit of Jocko right here. Well, I have my gum in my mouth. Yeah, so what do I have to talk about? Well, there's a lot to talk about. I went on a run today. I won't say how long it was, but I had a lot of thoughts, and I was wishing I was recording while I was running, but I didn't have my phone, of course, so or any cameras or anything like that. But yeah, everything's been pretty good. During my birthday weekend, I took 2 days off, and with my girlfriend and we did a lot. We went to a winery. I got pretty hammered, I guess you could say. I mean, I normally don't drink, but I figured this time it would be an exception because I wanted to celebrate everything that I've been doing for the last 6, 7, 8 months, and just kind of get that just kind of have like some fun, kind of get that itch scratched, so to speak, because it's been a while since I like really drank a lot, and I've been pretty good with my health, because I'm always checking my ketones and trying to stay on track with my fitness goals and stuff like that. So it had been a while since I've gotten that drunk. I mean, I basically had the equivalent. So on the 9th, when I was out with her, we went to 2 places for wine tasting, and then we had a steak dinner at a nice restaurant with live jazz guitar music, a live jazz band, and they basically were willing to play any song that I requested. It wasn't even, they weren't even there for me. They were just there for the fun of it, and they were there. They said they're there every Sunday at like from, I don't know, 5 to 8 or something. So we might go back on a Sunday at that same location. But yeah, things are interesting. Sorry, I know I'm chewing my gum, but I've been keeping up with the nutrition world on YouTube. Just trying to figure out things, learning more about what I don't know, I guess. There's a guy named The Fabulous Body. His name is Chris. I'm all the way in California, in Sacramento, so I don't think he and I would ever collaborate on anything, but and I'm a small channel and I'm not trying to grow, and I know at times I both seem like I don't know what I'm talking about. I might not be able to articulate what I'm saying, and also I may seem kind of antisocial at times. So I can understand why it's hard to connect with anyone, even on YouTube, especially on YouTube, for me at least, and to try to get that popularity going. Yeah, so I'm also still working a lot. Like most of the time I'm on the computer working on stuff. Still getting my docs together. It's taken some time, like I was telling you, because I'm basically like kind of like recreating the wheel in some ways, but at the same time, I'm still top down because I'm using documents from a property management author, book author. So it's still like top down in some ways, but it's also very bottom up because I'm kind of recreating the wheel in many ways, like in very particular ways, because I don't want to like get screwed by anything. Like for example, you see this pendant light here, right? I'm putting a very particular provision as to avoid heading into it. So like I'm trying to be as careful as possible, trying to make sure that that basically mitigates any issues that might come up with like the physical part. A lot of landlords they'll just make a general statement to cover everything. But I don't really want to take that chance because I've worked so hard, right? So I want to make sure it's spelled out so that basically they know what not to do. Or if they think they're gonna damage, then they're just gonna be like, okay, I'm not interested. By the way, this one has no effect on your ketones. Like this is keto friendly. It's called Jocko Go. And it's basically an energy drink. This is my second one tonight. It's got theobromine, which you could find in dark chocolate. Potassium, something called alpha GPC, Bacopa Manieri, whole herb extract. It's pretty good. I also wanted to say that I've been pretty successful now for about a month, I think, or whenever I last recorded that video. I guess even before that, maybe the last month. But it's been about 3.5 weeks since I did my last Dexa scan before today. And it showed that I gained 2.2 pounds of muscle and I lost 1.3 pounds of fat. Part of that fat was visceral fat. I went from 5 to 4 in point scale, whatever that is for visceral fat. So maybe that's 1%. Maybe 1 pound of that is, I don't know how it works. But I basically went down from 16 to 15% body fat. So I'm glad to see the results. It means I'm headed in the right direction. And most particularly, there's two things that are the result of this. One, I ended up going from just pure like fasting and keto to protein modified sparing fast in my own way, in a more ketogenic way. And I told you how that was going to work for me in the previous video. And so far it has been working for me, as you can see on that Dexa scanner, or else it just wouldn't show up. So like that. So like if I gain 2.2 pounds of muscle, that would be the reason, because I'm just using egg whites and stuff like that. And at times it's very low fat. At times it's very low fat. But whenever I'm trying to get ketogenic, I make sure that I up the fats, and sometimes, so this is what I wanted to kind of explain in this video, because I know it seems like I'm obsessed with all this nutrition stuff, but I'm just getting down to my goal percentage of 10% body fat. So this is going to be like most of the videos until I get there, I would say, which may take quite a bit of months, but we're getting there. But yeah, 15% body fat's pretty good. And like I said, it's because I gained 2.2 pounds of muscle and I lost 1.3 pounds of fat. And I can actually see it defined in my abs a little better than before. And I wanted to explain this because beforehand, when I was approaching this from like a weight loss point of view, from what I would classically do last year, which is like, oh, well, if I want to lose weight, the only thing that I probably can do is just basically fast. Now, that is true to some extent, because what I mean by that is, before the last DEXA scan, there was about a 3-week period where I was basically doing like 3 days or 4 days of fasting every single week up to that point. Um, just pure fasting where I wasn't, well, I would say 2 days. 2 days. Some of the weeks were they were 2 days of just pure fasting, water fasting that is. And so what that essentially caused everything was it basically balanced to where I didn't lose or gain muscle at all. It's weird. Like my muscle mass stayed exactly the same, but I lost about, I don't know, 4 pounds of fat. I got to go back, but it's somewhere around there, which is considerably more than what I did here. And that's consistent because my ketone levels were super high during the beginning of May up to that next Dexa scan. And I think it's kind of interesting because by switching over to the protein modified sparing fast with the polyphenols and the fiber, maybe my ketones weren't as high, but at least I gained muscle mass, which I think is a direct reflection of that. And when you add the two numbers together, it exceeds whatever. Well, it's 3.5 pounds, but I don't know. I guess it's about the same as just pure fat loss. I'm not saying that one would be equivalent to the other in terms of where you get to in terms of body fat percentage, even though they're about the same. But I find it interesting because I felt so much better doing the protein way of fasting, so to speak, where you keep it under a certain calorie and stuff like that. And I would have assumed that because I was looking at the scale and I was like, wait, why is the scale was actually going up at certain points. I was like, why is this happening? And now that I got the DEXA scan, it made me realize, after 3.5 weeks, it made me realize like I was just gaining muscle, so I shouldn't have worried so much. But the other thing that I was doing too was like, there's this whole thing about, hold on a second, sorry, some things. Yeah, there's this whole thing about sugar fasting, which I think I've been doing intermittently. Like I've been doing it like once every 3 weeks. That's another thing that I haven't really been doing it consistently, but when I do like a so-called sugar fast, it's more of like a cheating situation. So, for example, obviously, wine is never going to justify any kind of diet or fast or for fitness or whatever, because it's all alcohol, other than polyphenols. But the next day, what I decided to do was I got an acai bowl with a ton of fruit. It was like, and this was like 10 a.m. or something. I got some maple syrup that my friend from Canada, his name is Mark, gave me, and I just poured it maybe it was like 2 or 3 tablespoons all over it. I ate it up, and then I had some. By the way, I didn't have any processed candy. I don't consider that a good thing ever. But I had some dark chocolate when I got home. And I went to the gym, and my gym effort was killer. I was lifting weights and doing muscle ups and stuff, or pull ups and stuff like that for about 3 hours straight. My pump was so crazy. I just kept going over and over, even though I would feel tired from time to time, but I would take these breaks and then I would just go back at it and just go crazy, like doing the ab crunches and everything like that. And doing that probably, I don't know. And then after that, I wasn't done. After the 3 hours, I said, I'm going on a hike. I drove to this, because this was like my day off. I took 2 days off. This was my second day off. That was Tuesday of this week. And I went to the hiking area and I hiked for 3 hours. It was the most incredible energy I've ever used to do anything. So I did feel like I was fat during that time. Like I felt like my abs weren't showing or whatever, and I had like a stomach or something like that. But after that, my muscles looked like they were more protruding, like the subsequent days. And I think it's because like all that the glycogen just went to the muscle and all that because of the sugar. Um, but the problem with this is that because I'm primarily ketogenic, um, it took about 2 or 3 days before my ketone levels started to rise. No matter what I did, I tried to. I said, okay, well, Wednesday, I'm just gonna fast, but not so strictly. I'm just gonna like. I think I had a meat meal with some eggs, right? So like steak, eggs, and then in the morning. So I was trying to do the keto thing, the protein modified sparing fast on Wednesday. And then this is something that kind of threw me off, but I thought it was good enough not to really care so much. But I got a protein shake from a grocery store that has like a cafe, and it wasn't really that big. It was a whey protein shake. They put one date in there, and because normally they would put three. I said no, just put one date. Put a little bit of cherries and some blueberries in that shake, and it was a really small one. It was like probably yay big. I think 16 ounces, 12 ounces, something like that. But it shouldn't really have spiked the sugar too much. And today is Saturday night. So on Thursday, the next day, my ketones went all the way down to 0.1 millimoles per liter. That's the lowest I've seen it ever. And so it's not because of that one protein shake. It's because of the damage I did during my birthday with the wine and the next day with the sugar fast, so to speak, sugar fast. So even though I might have had a good effect on the muscles, the so-called sugar fast, it wasn't necessarily good for weight loss in the sense from a ketogenic perspective for the subsequent days. And so I was looking at the scale and I was like, why is it so high? But like I was telling you, it's because I was gaining muscle probably. So, I'm glad. I'm sure the sugar diet, sugar fasting works. But that would be another thing that I think I might have even gained a pound of muscle from just that crazy workout day. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what it could have been? But I think it was primarily the protein modified sparing fast that did it. And so I would advise if you're ketogenic, advise against this because the subsequent days, like they just were showing weak results. And on Friday, or I think it was Wednesday. Wednesday. Strangely enough, there was a time it said 1.2, so I thought it was good. But then the next day it showed 0.1, and then 0.3, and then maybe even 0.4. So basically, I decided because I needed to get back to my ketogenic state. I decided on Thursday and Friday, and even today, I think, to do a fast, if you want to call it that. It's more like a fat fast. What I mean by that is, okay, so on Thursday, I decided to only do water fasting where I would have black coffee. But then Friday, or was it today? And then I think, gosh, I'm trying to remember my days. And then also Friday, I did the same thing. Yeah, Friday. Because my ketones were just so low. They were like 0.6 and then 0.5, 0.4. I was like, what is going on here? So on Thursday and Friday, I basically did water fasting, where you're just drinking coffee, black coffee. I put some MCT oil to try to help with things. And then today I woke up, or yesterday night, I noticed that my ketones went all the way up to 0.9. And so I felt pretty good about that. And so I just assumed that maybe everything was kind of recalibrated, and I would just wait until the next day to be able to go back to the fat fasting, where I'm basically just taking in fat and having my layered latte that I call the layered latte. I'm gonna have to show you how I make the layered latte. I put red palm oil, ghee, so 1 tablespoon red palm oil, 1 tablespoon ghee. I put 3 tablespoons of the layered sweet and creamy creamer. And that sounds like a lot, but actually it's not. It's only about 5 grams of sugar, maybe a little more, maybe 6 grams, 7 grams. It's still very low sugar, and it doesn't kick me out of ketosis, generally speaking. And then I put in, what else did I put in? I think that's about it. Sometimes I put in the reduced sugar, like 1 tablespoon of reduced sugar to make it more creamy. And am I leaving something out? I think that's about it. But then what I do is I put it over. Oh, that's right. So once that's done, once I put all those ingredients inside the cup, I then pour 4 shots of espresso by like basically like filling up the puck as much as possible. The one that is the biggest one. And basically I draw it for about 40 seconds. I just kind of leave it on there for 40 seconds. And then after that, I froth up some using the hot frother on the same machine. 1 cup, about maybe a half a cup of unsweetened pistachio milk or almond milk. But usually I'm using the pistachio milk. Sometimes I don't have it, but when I do, I use the pistachio milk. And then I pour it in, I whisk it up with the whisker or whisk, the mixer or whatever. And that's basically it has about 440 calories of fat, and that's my breakfast. And I'll have that either once or twice every day on my fat fast. So that's still under 900 calories on my fat fast. And it's really I would call it a modified ketogenic fast. Not the protein fast. So, because all you're doing is basically taking in oils and fats and then making you ketogenic, while also giving you a little bit of protein from the milk and stuff like that, and some nutrients. And obviously I'm taking my vitamins, all the essential vitamins that you need, not in 1 capsule, but multiple capsules. But anyway, probably have to give you, if you're curious, let me know if you want me to give you a list of all the vitamins I take. But during my fat fast, that's what I do, and it generally works to get me back into ketosis or to get me in a strong state of ketosis. So I did that for the first time in about 4 days today, and the last reading I checked on my ketone reading. Today I checked it at 3 different times, I think. The first time it showed 0.6, but that was because it was 9:30 and I was still having the Dom phenomenon. So that didn't really count. But so I still I said, you know what, this is the 3rd day of fasting, water fasting, if you want to call it that. You might as well just go for it. So I decided to have the espresso, and then by the time it was about 1 p.m., I did some grocery shopping. It got up to 1.4. So, and then I just checked it again after I did a run today. I'm at 1.3. So, I'm still kind of suffering the consequences of the sugar fast that I did, but maybe it might have been a good thing, because I think the muscle gain from it. There was some fat loss from it, but there was more particularly probably muscle gain from doing it for that one day. But I would say if you're going to do that, and if you're trying to be ketogenic, be aware that it could take a while for you to get back to a ketogenic state. And I'm still trying to get back, essentially. because I was getting like three, readings of 3 and 4 and 5, you know, millimoles per liter, consistently before I went ahead and did all that damage for my birthday. And I've been doing this every once in a while. So probably 2 weeks before that, I think I also did the same thing. I got an acai bowl, and I didn't intentionally put more sugar or maple syrup in there, but I definitely did do an intense workout following that. So I think kind of like in an unintentional way, when I combine the modified sparring fast with just very, very very rare times of sugar fasting, I think it's causing me to go, and also doing the ketogenic approach from time to time is causing me to get to my goals that I want to get to. So I mean, equivalently, I could tell you that during my birthday, I just kind of cheated on my diet. Like I didn't care what I was eating or consuming. The other thing too is, I'll admit, I've been having a lot more cigars lately. Now, there's some evidence that nicotine in it can be good, but everything else everything else other than the testosterone boost is kind of like really bad for your health, like the tar and stuff like that. But why I do it is just a kind of like a hobby thing. It's one of those guilty pleasures, I guess, similar to the wine from time to time. But I don't drink wine. I mean, I don't even drink. I just don't drink. I typically don't. And same thing with cigars to some extent, but more so drinking now. But I probably had about 4 or 5 cigars in the last month, and I usually only have one once a month or less. But I don't know. There's just something about it where I've been kind of. It just been making me feel like I have a bigger pump. Just in general, and that's probably because the protein is kind of, that slight increase in protein is kind of, with some cholesterol, is kind of like pushing me to do more testosterone boosting things. Like that definitely increases your testosterone when you smoke a cigar, and you're just like, you got that stogie, you're like, I'm high on life or whatever. I mean, I don't inhale it. You don't inhale cigars. It's kind of dumb to do that, but it definitely increases your testosterone. Same thing with onions and stuff like that. And it can make you feel good about your life, and just kind of like give you that boost. I don't know how to put it. That you can't really get from anywhere else too much. But yeah, I mean, cigars are nice. I mean, it's just like, but I want to say, like, something happened the last time I had a cigar. It was after a run. I came home, I had the cigar, and I was like, my heart was racing. It was on Tuesday, actually. My heart was racing, and that made me think like I could barely sleep, and then I had like a really bad nightmare about falling infinitely down like a labyrinth or something, or like an Eichler kind of situation. Or is it Edgar, or I don't know the name. Eicher. But it was definitely, I'm probably not going to have a cigar for a long time, because that made me aware of my heart health. I was like, dude, you got one heart, man. You cannot ruin it. Like, even though, yes, I'm exercising and stuff like that, just to do something like that, like smoking or drinking or something like that, you're putting, more so smoking, you're putting your heart health at risk for no reason. Like, it's just as bad as going to McDonald's or just doing, eating junk and stuff in terms of your health. So like, why are you even doing it? Well, like I said, I mean, it's fine to do every once in a while if it's like, because you're promoting sort of like a chill vibe, and there's something to be said about that, But generally, I would say don't do it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't smoke cigarettes, just do cigars. And definitely I would not do it more than maybe like once every 3 months, maybe 6 months. I don't know. It depends on your stress level too, I think. and what you get from the stress. I mean, if you can get good money from the stress, I don't know how to put it. But I guess some people would say don't do it at all. I guess that'd be the best thing. But yeah, like I was telling you, I pretty much don't drink anymore at all. I mean, but I definitely did on my birthday, and I really wanted to just scratch that itch because it had been so long, and I love wine. In fact, we bought a wine, or my girlfriend bought me a wine for my birthday at the winery we went to. My favorite place is called Madrona Winery in Apple Hill. The guy who runs, his name is Paul Bush. He wasn't there, unfortunately. But they have like a dinner apparently periodically. So at the end of July, they're going to have a dinner at this one place. The place that we went to, actually, we met their wives and stuff like that. The people that were playing, they got to be in their 70s. And they were playing music I love, the jazz music that I love. And I was talking to a lady. She's like, she's like, Madrona, that's the best winery. I'm so glad you love it. I'm like, yeah, I love it. Like, you gotta sign up or figure out when the dinner is gonna be. So I'm like, yeah, hopefully we can figure that out. Unfortunately, we had to go because Melissa, my girlfriend, had to take a train because her car, I basically picked her up from the Bay Area with 2.5 hours away, so she was gonna take the train home. So anyway, yeah, there's that. But let me show you the wine. It's actually looks really nice. Maybe the wine cup as well. I don't know. We got some wine cup too, but I don't think I'm going to be drinking this probably for another 6 months because like I said, I don't drink anymore. Pretty much, I usually don't drink, but we got the Syrah because I actually wanted to get this several years ago, but it just didn't happen. So instead, I got from the winery. This is Paul Bush Madrona. Instead, I got the Malbec, and I got really into it and it's kind of funny because I found out later Malbec was becoming like that was like 2022 or 2021. I found out later that like Malbec is a big deal, and a lot of people, the red wine, it's all dry wines, red wines. And what's interesting is that okay, I'll get into that later, but the Malbec, that one's also very good. So I didn't want to get both because I didn't want to be all greedy and stuff. So I was like, next time I come here, I'm gonna get the Syrah, So it's interesting about the Madrona because it was becoming more popular. I think more people were getting into it. The Malbec, and then I found out about this guy named Big Ed. I'm like, this guy has the same taste as me. He's like a San Diego dude. He loves Malbec. I'm like, dude, I want to chill with this dude. This guy named Big Ed. Now he's becoming fit, I guess. He's going to the gym, losing weight and stuff. So we're kind of on the same level playing field in terms of interests, I guess. This guy named Big Ed, but he's in his 50s, I think. And he's kind of reckless about his dating life. I try not to be. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share all that because it's kind of interesting. Because a lot of people probably think like, oh, well, you're against sugar or whatever, and I just wanted to give some thoughts. I've been listening more about the sugar diet and the sugar fasting and stuff like that, and it is a tool you can use. I mean, people cheat, right? So if you want to have a more reasonable cheat meal, you might as well do a sugar cheat meal. That's how I look at it, because your ketones are gonna I don't know how you look at cheating, but in terms of ketones, your ketones are going to be all over the place anyway. So, but I will say that if you're going to cheat though, and you want to do things the right way, like, don't go overboard like I did, because I forgot to tell you. So we had all that wine, right? But then that was my birth. Hold on a second. That was Sunday. And then on my birthday, which was Monday, I turned 32, right? I had another bottle. I had like another bottle of wine that I had stored away. So subsequent days of doing the wine. So basically, I pretty much had 3 days of cheating, and so we can't say that it's the sugar fast that did it, but we can say that probably did, but maybe not. because I did 3 days of cheating, meaning for me, cheating was drinking 2 of those days. And I also I went to a sushi restaurant twice, or I had seafood twice, which included all these carbs because I had fried stuff with it and just like bad ingredients. So, and obviously some rice with that too. So it was all cheating with respect to ketones and stuff like that. And I hadn't done that in so long. It had been so long. Um, Usually, if I'm gonna eat something like that, now I'm doing poke bowls with salads and just sashimi. Um, cold cuts of either cold or cooked cuts of, preferably cooked cuts of seafood like salmon, wild caught salmon, and crab, sometimes imitation crab, and then shrimp and just whatever, ahi poke. And that's kind of funny. There's a shirt. I don't have it right now, but I got it. It says tuna on it. I got it from Mikuni's. It's a sushi place on my birthday because I spin this wheel because it was my birthday and they give it, and I landed on free shirt or something like that. But yeah, I mean, generally it's very interesting because with all this, despite all this like having fun and stuff, as long as I have my ketone reader, and I do the things that I know seem to work for me, and I go get Dexa scans and stuff like that, I can figure out what really works for me, and that can be useful for my entire life. Whereas if you're just kind of like going about your everyday and kind of like just randomly doing things, you're not able to set up a pattern for yourself that actually works. And that's another thing. I think sometimes it's hard, like for people, because I know that when you're going about, like, especially when you're doing these things because of a medical issue or your doctor's telling you something, that can be very frustrating. But if you know ahead of time the patterns that have worked for you, maybe they won't always work, but they could work for a while, and you could it could definitely help you set up your life. So I'm glad this is working so far. But yeah, and I'm glad I'm going towards my goal still, despite all these times. And I know it sounds a little weird because it's like, technically I did do 2 days of water fasting, but it really didn't feel like fasting. And I was working too. I was still doing everything I wanted to do. It really didn't feel like fasting because I did everything I wanted to do during the times before that, like during my birthday. And I'm still at 15% body fat. Like, it's just mind blowing to me. Like, I'm still getting to my goals. So yeah, I mean, I think everything's relevant, So yeah, I mean, there's also more science that's coming out that's also important to learn about, I think, because it can help you out too. Like the whole FGF21 thing, I'm sure it plays a role in how I gain the muscle. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. And like I said, I'm glad. I wanted to congratulate all the YouTubers that are doing what they're, setting themselves out to do. Mark from Mark's Epic Weight Loss. I'm so glad that he still records videos despite his, medical issues that he's struggling with, which I hope he's feeling better. Of course, the Fabulous Body, Chris from Chris the Fabulous Body. He's inspiring. I like hearing his what he talks about. I think he's found out what works for him, and it's excellent. I really, really like the soba noodle strategy, because apparently the soba noodle is kind of like konjac noodles, which I use, but anti-konjac noodles in the sense that it's intentionally high carbs but very clean. So it's kind of interesting to see that, and I think it's a good, like, I might one of these days I'll probably go on a sugar fast or sugar diet or whatever, just for a day, just like I did twice or 3 times already, and try the soba noodles and see how I feel and stuff like that. But the soba noodles, yeah, it's interesting that it's like a clean. It's kind of interesting that it happens to be a clean product that's also high in carbs, because usually you don't see those two things. But yeah, I guess the same thing could be said about fats, high fats. Um, but yeah, he's losing weight. He's doing incredible. Chris from the Fabulous Body. Um, what else do I want to say about that? He's I think he's in New York. Yeah. And I made a few comments on his channel, and um I think, like I was telling you earlier, I'm just a weirdo sometimes. I apologize if I say the weird things, weird ways. Sometimes I'm just a weirdo. I mean, you know, I like if I go to a party or something, like I might be the most incredibly handsome, most like astute guy in terms of everything that you can check off a checklist. But then like somehow I'll just kind of like in an awkward way go away from a group and then end up at the 2 a.m. crowd where these fat chicks are telling me like, hey, you're cute, or like they're messing with me, saying, treating me like I'm a 1 out of 10. You know what I mean? And that's happened before, and I'm like, wait, why am I here? So, that's happened before, and it's mostly because, it's like for the most part, like if I'm going out or whatever, I don't really care about how I fit with other people. I just do my own thing. Like I'm like an eagle that flies alone, I kind of like do my own thing. I dance to my own beat. That's kind of how I am. So, like for example, this whenever I go out or run, I'm running by myself. I'm basically competing with myself. I don't know anyone else who's like in my direct my direct crowd who's doing what I'm trying to do. So because I just do what I know is good for where I am in my life. It's not about where other people are, and that can be a good and bad thing in some ways, because you kind of feel like you're alone in a bad way and alone in a good way sometimes. When you feel like you're alone in a bad way, you kind of think to yourself, like you regret things, or like you think that you're ill of yourself. You think kind of ill of yourself, and that other people can give a case for why you shouldn't be where you are, or that you're just kind of like a fake. Sometimes you feel that way, but then you got to remind yourself that it's really about what you've accomplished, and the obstacles you were able to get through, that these people couldn't possibly have even thought about trying or starting, and that's sometimes I think about that, but it's all good. I mean, but from a good angle, it's when you accomplish these things, you're on cloud nine. You're like, holy shit, look at me, just like the Fabulous Body. He's like looking like super thin, and it's just like you're on cloud nine, and it makes you want to do more and walk more and go, do more and stuff like that, and share this with other people, right? And so, same thing with Travis Wu. There's another YouTuber that, I mean, he's not really in the nutrition. I'm not in the nutritionist space either. But like I was telling you, you're dancing to your own beat, or I'm dancing to my own beat. So it's like, Travis Wu is another guy. He was actually the guy that probably made me think about the goal of getting to 10% body fat. Because I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I'm kind of in that direction. I just have to tweak a few things. And I'm looking at this guy, and we're kind of like on the same wavelength when it comes to how we see life and stuff like that. And the things that he's talking about are similar to like what I've thought about and We share the same perspective. He's in Hawaii. I'm like, life is about relaxing and trying to, you know, striving for a peaceful, harmony with kind of like your own thoughts, your imagination, and the people around you, and trying to fulfill visions and stuff like that. And so, like, he's in Hawaii, and it's funny because one of my favorite jazz musicians, I know this may seem completely irrelevant, but one of the most like heartfelt videos I've seen of this jazz musician named Sadao Watanabe, was him playing in Hawaii. And I just keep thinking about that. I was like, I can imagine myself doing the same thing, playing the saxophone live in this Hawaiian place. This place is in Hawaii, Turtle Bay. The most epic songs, and it was like a concert from 1989 or 1990, called Front Seat, and what was it, Sweet Deal. And I have a few covers of myself playing that. So it's kind of interesting because, yeah, like Hawaiian, and then also there's another guy named Laird Hamilton. Obviously, I make the lattes based off of him. He's all about surfing and living like kind of like the Hawaiian lifestyle in a way. But he lives in, I think he has a place in Hawaii. I don't know. I think he primarily lives in, we call it Malibu. But anyway, which is kind of funny because Miles Davis is in Malibu. Was in Malibu. I might want to go move to Malibu. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, the Fabulous Body is definitely killing it. And I think he feels a similar way in terms of like accomplishments. It's like you're just on cloud nine, and you just want to, you don't want to stop. You just love dancing to your own beat, So yeah, and he's in his 50s. It's just incredible. It's incredible. Like, it's incredible. Because I see a guy that's in our 50s that I have a coworker with. I'm not going to say who it is. But he seems to be suffering with all this fat, and like he's raising a kid and stuff. And I just feel so bad for him. And he might be jealous of me because of the progress I'm making from appearance-wise. But anyway. And then there's another guy named, his name is Ryan from High Carb Regenerator. Again, these are sugar diet guys, but I think they have something valuable to add to everything, especially even YouTube, even if it's not nutrition. He's an artist too, just like my brother. My brother's an artist. And I could tell they're similar in that way. Like they want to, they have this kind of like, this tunnel vision for what they want to do. And High Carb Regenerator deserves to be 5% body fat. I mean, based off of what he's gone through. He's very, very, very like strict and about what he's trying to do, and like I said, tunnel vision, hyper focused. And you could tell too. It's like at first it just seems like he's worried about things, but then I start to realize like, oh no. He's got that expression because he's got the tunnel vision. He wants to really hone in on whatever he knows instead of just like, so that's really what it is. It's like he talks about all the things he's trying and what he's doing. And he seems to be killing it too. I think he probably lost 20, 30 pounds already in the last 3 months. I don't know. I don't know in particular. I'm just guessing. But it's not always about losing weight. It's about how you feel and stuff like that. It's interesting because I'm noticing that the more body fat I lose, the easier it is for me to do long distance running. So I just did 15 miles and it felt easy, way easier. Like I have all this energy still, to do stuff. And normally I would only be able to do 13 miles and I'm done for the day. I'll be in bed. Like right now I'd be in bed. I'm taking Jocko, but still. Anyway, just thought I would talk a little bit about this. Again, one of these days, I'm probably going to get back to talking more about structural and all this stuff, engineering and that kind of thing. where I'm working on maybe theoretical things or just new stuff I'm learning, or even maybe delving into the SE exam, which sounds crazy because I think the pass rate is now 12 13% for the first timers takers. But I keep thinking about it too, because I really do want to start my own firm. I really want to start, but there's just so many layers of things like that I'm trying to tackle before it makes sense for me to switch or to do like to invest in that. Because for example, I'm still trying to rent this place out, the room out, and like I said, I'm still working on my docs, but that in itself is not something that you just want to try to just do over a weekend. It's something you got to put time into. And then I got my fitness goals, so it's like when do you have time for something like that? And the thing about the fitness goals, it's more about the longevity, because like I was telling you, the 10%, I mean, you're pretty much, if you can maintain that for years and years, you're probably gonna be able to be mentally fit for decades. And I don't even know what the immediate effects would be too, because for example, if I get down to there and I start the SE exam, I might be on fire mentally. Who knows compared to before? Because ketones are very powerful, So we'll just have to see about that. And like I said, like my brain's always on working, because it has to be working on the stuff I do for my normal job. And I like to read too. I haven't been reading lately, unfortunately. I've been wanting to read again. But yeah, thanks for watching.